Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC TV show podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network Group. I am your host, Priscilla Welch. The week is finally almost over, and I'm ready for the weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I am. I have a treat for all of you tonight. I will be analyzing different projects and ideas for the top streaming companies that are of 2020. And so if you stay tuned to later in the show, you'll be hearing about that. I will also be discussing the best sci-fi unrelated DC shows on the CW. I'll start off with that. And especially if you love TV shows with female leadership, alien, space, warriors type of content, if you're huge fans of Star Wars and Star Trek, then these are the type of shows for you. But these type of shows are very controversial, so meaning like it's kind of a knockoff of Star Trek or Star Wars, especially if you want something that has good content, that has good cinematography, and just a good storyline. When a TV show doesn't match up as a storyline and the characters don't connect with the audience, that's when there's an issue. And a lot of times what I've noticed too, and just a little introduction here, is a TV show could be awesome even with just the acting and the sound effects and just the fact that you can see that whoever put the production together knows what they're doing and is willing to like not give up and just be hard at work when it comes to the editing. Even if it's a movie or a TV show that has low budget, it honestly really doesn't matter, because if everything else, like the acting and everything else, is good and those producers and directors had to work on a certain budget, it will come out nice. So that's what I kind of want to compare between the first two shows I'm going to be talking about today. And it's not really breaking down the characters and everything like that, even though it's about a TV show, but just necessary kind of a bit of a summary about both shows and then comparing the two. So let's first start off with the TV show called Pandora. Now, there has been a lot of controversy on this show. I actually fell in love with this show, I'm not going to lie, about last year because I was just looking for something new to watch. And as you all probably know by now, I am a huge fan of Star Wars. I'm a huge fan, not so much of Star Trek, but I do love Star Wars. I've watched all the films, the old and the news. And what I noticed is that I started liking the storyline of the main character. Her name is Jax. Jax is short for Jacqueline. And she is basically the main character of the entire TV show. And honestly, after reading a lot of professional but then amateur reviews, as you can look this up even on Rotten Tomatoes, there really isn't a lot of things that people are saying that are nice about the show. And I'm actually surprised that they're currently right now, you can actually watch this show on the CW app. And currently there is a season 2 of the show. So the plot of the story is Pandora is basically a sci-fi action series about Jax. And she basically, well, the way the show starts out, even in the pilot season, she is from an area, New Portland. So if you watched like other, say for example, the Divergent series, if you watched that film, you would see that it's futuristic and it's dystopian, and it's in a time where the cities that we have now, like Chicago or New York or Portland, Oregon, they are more advanced and they look way different to how we have them now in the present here. So what this show does as well is it will say like this is like the new Chicago, the new Portland. So Jax is actually from the New Portland colony. So she is basically from Portland, Oregon, if it was to be something that was done in the present. And basically, from her belief, she thought she lost her parents in this explosion that happened on that day. She went out for a quick little jog, and by the time she turned around, there was like a huge explosion, and she wasn't even able to make it back there to try and help anyone out. She then has to return to Earth because Earth basically comes up with this academy where they kind of train people from all species, all walks of life, different planets, yes, of course, aliens, and we see that in the show as well. Honestly, the Zatorians are more, like, I can actually relate to them and actually, like, care more about them out of all the characters on the show, because I feel like Jax's character is kind of stupid. But that's just my opinion, of course. She has to go through this space training academy, and they all either become cadets or captains, kind of in like an imperial force space type of military type of thing going on. So of course you still have your criminals, you still have crimes that's being done in space, but it's a lot more advanced because of the science and the technology behind it. And a lot of times that it could be just an average thief or average killer who is actually working for another big corporate company or someone else that has a lot of power and has a lot of charge in the entire universe. So that's kind of where the story persists. Season 2 right now basically picks up off of season 1. And I have to be honest, like, I just started watching season 2 the other night, and I only made it through the second episode halfway through for season 2. And I'm a little disappointed because a lot of the characters that I know from the first season, I don't see them at all so far in season 2. And I don't like it when shows do that because it's like you already made a connection with the characters from season 1 that you would assume is the original cast. But then for some reason, season 2, it's like the storyline is kind of switching up a bit because of what happened recently involving Jax's character. And I'm not going to reveal what that is. You will just have to watch the show to find out. But it's very interesting how they have done that. And now in season 2, like I said, a lot of those characters that you make connections with and were very popular to make season 1 are not even shown, like they're not even shown yet in season 2. Instead, some of the supporting characters that were really not that relevant in season 1 are kind of making a recurring role for season 2. I mean, they even have this one actress who is a completely different character, and it's like Jax's new roommate, which they apparently switched out from season 1, which I also don't like. And she's only probably in like 2 or 3 episodes because I looked up the cast and she literally is supposed to be in 2 episodes. And I'm like, that's so weird because the show just started and she was already in the pilot episode for season 2. So the cast, again, Jax, aka Jacqueline, she's played by Priscilla Quintana, and I think that's pretty cool. That's another thing that attracted me to the TV show, is it was someone with my first name, Priscilla. So she's also aka Pandora, and I'll leave it at that. You'll have to watch the show to find out more as to what that means. And like I said, whose parents were killed in a surprise attack on the colony they were on, and who arrives to Earth Space Training Academy as a student, but soon discovers that there are things about herself that she doesn't know or understand. So that's kind of where the show follows, at least for season 1. Then we have Oliver Dench as Xander Duval, and he's the teaching assistant basically to Jax's uncle, and he is also a future captain. And then we have Rachel Bano, who is Atria 9, and she's a fellow student at Earth Space Training Academy and a good friend of Jax. We have John Harlan Kim as Greg Lee, a fellow student at Earth Space Training and Jax's friend as well. Then we have Ben Radcliffe as Raylan. Raylan is actually my favorite character. He is an alien Zotarian and a fellow student at Earth Space Training Academy as well. And he generally is distrusted by the other Earth students until he proves himself at the end of season 1. You can see, though, in season 2, there's still a bit of a difference between if you're a Zotarian or if you're from Earth. And it's only because of, like, the wars between Zotarians and Earth. So there's kind of a hostility that people have to still get over. Then Benita Sandhu is Delaney, and she was Jax's roommate from season 1, but I have not seen her yet in season 2. And then we have Noah Huntley as Professor Donovan Osborne, aka Jax's uncle. Then we have Tamina Sunny as Reagan Freed, and she was the daughter of the industrialist Harlan Freed in season 1. And the list continues. Everyone else is kind of supporting characters. Like, we have some professors that are significantly usually here and there in a few episodes because they are students and they still have to go to class. So as I said before, I will be comparing this particular TV show to The Outpost. So actually, for a Rotten Tomatoes review, the professional critics rated it only 6 rotten and 1 fresh, and it was 4.67 out of 10. The audience critics say it was 2.16 for the average rating. And the TV show actually aired July 16, 2019 on the CW app. It said the second season is currently ongoing, which started October 4th. Right now, I believe the last time I checked on the CW app, it's at 4 episodes that you can watch right now. The TV show was created by Mark A. Altman and Steve Creozier. Basically, it was also filmed in Bulgaria, which I also think is pretty cool because I love it when certain TV shows that take it far enough where they want that entire set and that entire environment, because it has a lot to do with the show and it has a big impact on the show, that they would film it in a different country and not America. And one thing I would say too, in my opinion, for this show and my analyzations is I definitely want more feedback on each character and a bit more explaining on their backstories, especially like for the Zaterian War. Like, I think I would like it better if they actually did a prequel. And I think actually the show would do a lot better if they did a prequel of what happened before the time era of Jax. So basically the war between the Zaterians and Earth, because a lot of times this TV show literally reflects back on what happened all those years ago. And they start finding out different secrets and clues as to how it connects back to that particular war, especially for certain people who are descendants of those who fought and died in the war, or probably they fought in the war themselves, but they don't really age that quickly compared to Earth people. And another thing, like, there's a lot of questions. Like, I want to know why they, when they created the story, why people still hate each other depending on their race. Why is there still discrimination and racism? And why doesn't Jack's uncle, like, be there for her more? I want to know if he actually knew that what was really going on with her parents and with the explosion. And another thing to question for season 2 actually is if the parents were actually keeping any secrets, because she's finding out more information about her parents. And also, what is the difference between the planets? So for example, the way that the Earth Academy is set up is kind of like basically a big ship in space. So if you watch the 100, you have this thing called the Arc system. And basically, everyone is in different parts of the ship, or if they have a separate ship, they usually would land and dock on that ship in space. So that's kind of what they are doing as well in the show Pandora. But I want to see more of the other planets as well, especially like the Zaterian planet. We only got to see like snips and bits of it from season 1, but definitely to get a better understanding of the different races and the alien races and the cyborgs as well, that are like part cyborg, part human, or all cyborg, or the certain powers. I think they need to really like go back into that. I would also like to mention that what will everyone be eventually like fighting for, and why are there 2 Jaxes? Why are there 2 Pandoras? I feel like season 2 would kind of answer those questions, but like I said, just watching the first 2 episodes alone for the first season, it kind of threw me off track as to where the story is going now. So that's pretty much it. I won't really compare until we start talking about the next TV show. And coming up after the break, it is called The Outpost. And The Outpost can also be found on the CW app that you can also watch. So stay tuned after the break. We'll dive more into the analogy of The Outpost and Pandora. Talk to you soon.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. So if you're now tuning into the podcast, we just finished discussing about the CW TV show called Pandora. And it is a sci-fi action. And if you like Star Wars and Star Trek, this is kind of a knockoff of those two brilliant shows. And now I would like to get into our next TV show called The Outpost. Now, if you were listening earlier in the show, I really didn't have a lot of nice things to say about the TV show Pandora. However, again, everyone has their own opinion. It's just that I can't follow the storyline anymore in season 2, and it's actually really irking my nerves because I actually fell in love with the show from season 1, and I liked the way it was going, but now it seems to be changing down, basically going down a different path. So what would I like to do, as I discussed earlier, is basically talk a little bit about The Outpost as well, and then compare the two and my reasons why I'm liking The Outpost now more than I'm liking Pandora. So The Outpost, I saw actually the first 2 episodes, the first season, literally 2 days ago. And it literally has a lower budget than the TV show Pandora, but it is doing a lot better with the storyline. I mean, the acting is just awesome. So you can automatically connect with the characters even from like the first episode. Now, you all know what I'm talking about when you have that TV show that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked. You just can't take off the TV. You can't switch it because you just have to keep going. You have to keep going. It really entertains you depending on what genre you like and what you like to see when you watch a show. So, of course, now on Rotten Tomatoes, like the data was like so much different from that of Pandora. So for professional critics, they said they gave it a 5 rated for fresh, and they gave it a 5 rated for rotten. So it's about 50-50 for The Outpost, 50%. And the audience gave it 4.41 average rating and 88%. So when I compared The Outpost and Pandora, especially on Rotten Tomatoes, The Outpost actually had a higher percentage of being better than that of Pandora. And Outpost actually aired July 10, 2018, so it actually aired out a year before Pandora came out. And it's actually produced by Sci-Fi International Channels. So it is a fantasy drama about a young woman who basically starts hunting down like all these men that hunted down her village and killed them all many, many years ago. Now, we all heard storylines like that, and it's always a warrior that ends up coming out as the single sole survivor of that village or of that race that basically gets revenge or vengeance, you should call it, on their people or for the people. And she is a black blood, so she's some sort of like elf or like superhuman. It's kind of a mix because as I was watching, even just for example, the first and second episode, the first episode, we see that her mother is trying to help her escape. And in doing so, there's like this little ball of blue lightning that the mother has near her temple. And it's able to also travel down to her fingertips, which she somehow miraculously gives to her daughter. And then it enters her temple. So apparently that's kind of the source of like the Black Blood's supernatural capabilities. So far as the story goes in Outpost, the main character, she basically is going to be hunting down anyone that had to do with that day and destroying all the people in her village. And so far as where I'm at in the story is she already has killed one of the first of 7 men. And it's crazy because it seems like so far as to where the story is going that the men that basically did the job of killing all the Black Bloods were actually paid by someone who said kill them all. And it seems like this religious dictator that's supposed to be of the entire realm may in fact be the one that said to go ahead and destroy the Black Bloods. And basically where we find our main character now is she finally gets to a place that's kind of on the outskirts of the edge of everything. And it's called The Outpost, which is where the title of the show comes in. And she meets noble woman there as well as the captain. The captain of the soldiers, he doesn't consider himself part of that original army where they called them the Red Covenants, which is what the man she killed recently is. And he sees himself more as someone that just kind of protects the outpost. And his father is actually like the lead marshal there, but they don't go by the same last name anymore. And he changed his name when he did become a soldier and a protector. So if you like shows like The Witcher, Into the Badlands, Cursed, which I did do a segment, podcast before on the TV show Cursed, or if you like Monkey King or Continuum, I mean, there's so many shows that can relate to the Outpost, but usually this will be the kind of show for you. And my reason now, I think I'm liking the Outpost more than Pandora, even though I've saw Pandora. I literally saw the first full season. I'm like halfway through the second season now. But with the Outpost, like I said, it really doesn't matter about if they don't have like the proper effects like how maybe the Pandora does. Because even the Pandora TV show is a bit low budget, but you can tell if you compare the two side by side where the art is, the cinematography, and like I said, even the storyline, who worked harder, especially depending on how much money that you had. Pandora clearly makes, I feel like, at least due to budgeting, a lot more behind the scenes when it comes to like the money compared to the Outpost. So the Outpost seems a lot more like low budget than Pandora. But even the main actor in the Outpost, and we even have one character, and he is like the brewer. I automatically like fell in love with his character because his character is supposed to be a bit autistic, but he plays it so well where it's like hard to believe if he is or isn't. And he literally is doing his character justice because he's showing that even with that certain disability, he can still brew things. He's still good with his hands when it comes to like helping someone out who needs healing. And he actually was one of the characters that helped her out after she had a courageous fight with one of the men that killed her village and killed her family. So that was also very interesting to see. And again, I'm very interested as to where even the Marshall story leads. Would they ever have a connection between him and his son? And what will happen, like, if there would be, like, a three-way relationship going on with the main character, the captain, and the captain's wife, who actually the main character just saved in the beginning of, like, the second episode or the first episode. And I think they're all going to end up fighting together. I have to continue watching the show, of course, but they're all going to end up fighting together for no cause to stop the religious dictator. I think that will be the end goal for season 1. Currently, they actually have 3 seasons that are out right now. And again, you can watch this on the CW app. So clearly, this show is doing a lot more better, I believe, than Pandora, especially based off the critic reviews and the amateur reviews that I reviewed to you all. In description for the cast of the show, we have Jessica Green as Talon, that is the main character. We have Jake Stormone, which is Captain Garrett Spears. That's the captain I was referring to. And then we have Imogen Waterhouse, which is Lady Gwyn, which is also Jake's basically kind of like girlfriend. I also want to see that too a little bit more in the show because there's a bit of a issue there, a bit of a strain that it seems like the Captain Spears and Lady Gwyn cannot be together because of their houses and of nobility. And Lady Gwyn, her father is like one of the main one of the supporting characters on the show that actually have a lot of high impact influence and is basically Captain Spears' boss in a way, besides the Marshal, which is also his father. So it's a bit complicated history going on there. We also have Anad Desai Barochia as Janzo, and Janzo was the character I was discussing that is the perfect brewer, and he actually assisted Talon in her wounds after she got out that bloody fight. We have Andrew Howard. He is the Gate Marshal. And he, I guess, was only in seasons 1 to 2, so he's not even in the current season 3. So that should tell you something. We have Robin Malcolm as Eleanor. We have Kevin McNally as the Smith. We have Aaron Fontaine as Tobin. And he actually started out in season 2, and he's still on the show now in season 3. Eleanor is actually only in seasons 1 to 2, and the Smith is in only season 1. Then we have Glynis Barber, who is Gertrucia in season 2, Reese Ritchie as Zed in season 3, and he was recurring a little bit in season 2. Then we have Izuka Hoyle as Ren in season 3, and Jay Griffiths as Yavala in season 3. Other recurring actors, we have Sharon Prabhakar as Dano in season 1, Philip Brody as Ambassador Everett Dread in seasons 1 to 2. We have Thor Nye as Nell, season 1. Koki Falco as Tiberian Shek in season 1. Michael Flynn as General Cornelius Calcuster in season 1. Elizabeth Berkner as Ilian, aka the Dragman in seasons 1 to 2. Sonali Castillo as Essa Khan in seasons 1 to 2. Medallion Rahimi as Amida Suman, and in season 2 she is Nea. So she plays 2 different characters, it seems. She plays Amida in season 1, and season 2 she plays Nea. Lily Holunder as Reb in season 2. Dragan Miknovic as Captain Orlik in season 2, and he seems to be also in season 3. Then we have Patrick Leister as Captain Kalkausar in season 2 and now in season 3. And Tawana Upkev as Warlita in season 2 and also in season 3. So in March 2020, of course, like so many other TV shows, they actually announced that the production of The Outpost had been shut down during the filming of the 6th and 7th episodes of the season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then on June 8, 2020, it was reported production is set to resume filming for the 3rd season in Serbia on June 12, 2020. And then October 7th, 2020 is ahead of the 3rd season premiere. So basically right now they still have another 13 episodes again for season 3, and that started October 7th. So you can actually watch quite a few episodes that have been out since the first week of October. And it seems like every season has a majority of 13 episodes, which is pretty consistent because you know exactly what you're getting with this TV show. And it doesn't really go all over the place as to Pandora, which is only on its 2nd season. And the 2nd season didn't even finish yet. So I would be very surprised if the CW actually continues with the Pandora TV show. I don't think, and I didn't even watch the full 2nd season yet, but I can tell from now I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And I really think they should actually just cancel the show. Maybe start over again in a couple years or so. And maybe, I don't know, take my idea into effect about just doing a prequel instead because I like to know, I want to see the war. I want to see why things happened in the first place. Was it something with nuclear energy? Like, you know, these type of topics. Was it something with the quantum realm? I don't know. That it would actually reflect the storyline a little better if they did a prequel. Because right now, the storyline for Jax's main character is just not working. It's even the acting. Like, the acting is not even great. I feel like Priscilla Quintana, she's not that bad of an actress, but I just feel like maybe if I saw her in a different TV show, that we can actually see a different side of her and how she acts. Because the people around her, like, it's like the cast and crew, it's like almost as if they're acting as if they don't know each other. Like, you know that a relationship can be faked on and off screen. So it's like it's going both ways and there's like no connectivity between them. I mean, even with her love interest, her captain, it doesn't seem to be a proper like connection there. It seems like they're trying too hard. So you can tell where they're trying to act and then where it's just like, no, I'm really uncomfortable with this scene. So that was just my little analysis between The Outpost and between the Pandora TV show, which again is both on the CW app. You can watch it there for free. You don't have to do any subscriptions or anything like that, okay? So coming up after the break, again, we're getting closer and closer to closing our show. So we're now halfway through our podcast today. And like I said, don't go anywhere because we're going to talk about the latest achievements in television and media industry for 2020 and some more information. I will close out with that. But coming up after the break, I want to talk to you about the best streaming services of 2020. So don't go anywhere.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in with me today. It is your host, Priscilla Welch, for the television podcast. So if you're now tuning in halfway through the episode, right before this, we just finished discussing the two TV shows, The Outpost and Pandora, and I was just comparing the two and which one I think is better. So go ahead and listen to that part of the podcast if you haven't already. But in all honesty, it seems like The Outpost is winning. And now, furthermore, I would like to get into the best streaming services, basically, of 2020. So, I don't know if you have noticed, but especially in my field as a communications major, or even just in general in the population, more and more now, people are streaming everything online, all down to video games, all down to TV shows, all down to film. Even when you're reading something, like, you're not necessarily, of course, using the term streaming, but it is online that you can read. No one really physically gets a book or magazine or newspaper anymore, unless maybe it comes in the mail, or if you probably buy one, or if you probably ordered one. And it's all about subscriptions. And, of course, you can still subscribe to the GSMC podcast. That would be awesome. So, furthermore, I want to give my opinion of what I think is the best streaming services, and then I also did my research on what is actually the best streaming services of 2020. So I'm just going to do like an opinion versus fact type of thing here. And I feel like it's very important to know this information because it all depends on what you would like to watch. So not everything sometimes is entertainment. Sometimes you need to watch the news. Sometimes, of course, it's politics. And we're not going to get into that, of course, but as you all know, the election is coming up November 3rd. So, of course, many of you who don't have cable will most likely be using a streaming service to actually watch the debate, or just stream it online, or just stream it on your phone. That's the new thing now. That's the new norm. And it's been like that for a few years. But what seems to be happening, especially with watching TV, is more and more people need to start adding that to the media plan, because it looks like even by the year, I believe it was 2021 or 2024, that literally more than half of the country by then would not even have cable. In my opinion, I feel like that's already happening, but we just haven't reached that mark yet where it's like halfway through, because a lot of people still use and have bundles and have cable. And if you're one of them, I mean, it's time to get rid of it. You can save a lot more money if you just have the apps that you specifically want to watch on that network. For that TV show, or that film, or that news, or that sports, or anything with cooking reality TV. Like, there's so many options out there, and a lot of times, a lot of them are in one app that you can watch the majority of it, like Netflix. So I just want to get into that list today, and I feel like it is necessary to know because the world is literally changing right before your eyes, besides the pandemic. And even now, like, there's actually some theaters that would allow you to rent out a theater for like $99 or a little bit more to actually go see a new movie in the movie theater, or just a movie that is showing in the movie theaters. So, of course, now we're in the month of October, and I know a lot of the Harry Potter and Star Wars movies have been showing in certain movie theaters, for example. And based off of TV shows, it's becoming more and more popular with a lot of these conglomerates and companies that are actually reconstructing how they have their audience view streaming, because people are making actually a lot more money when things are going straight to your home, because they know a lot of people are going, especially with certain age groups between at least 18 and 35, people with kids, college students, high school students, working people, non-working people, unemployed, employed, that are actually sitting at home and waiting for the TV show to actually show up for that night. And a lot of times, like Amazon Prime, for example, they will put out a whole season. So you wouldn't have to be waiting every week for that new episode to come out in regards to maybe a show on Stars or HBO. They may not have all the episodes out all at one time, but only certain places are doing that. But in general, a lot of them are having ad-free TV shows. And I think that's awesome, because now we're starting to see that we wouldn't need commercials anymore. Everything is pretty much ad-free, because now that streaming is in a whole different way, these companies are realizing that they can actually depend on themselves to pay for their own marketing and pay for their own advertising, which is where radio and podcasting also comes in. So here's the list. You can actually look this up on your own. It's coming from the www.tomsguide.com, and it has the list of the best streaming services. And apparently this was put out 13 days before October 20th, so around the beginning of the month. And right now, at a glance, they are discussing the best streaming services are Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, Sling TV, Fubo TV, and Crackle. And the only thing that's free on that list is Crackle. You don't, and with cable, like, you have to remember too, like, if you're not paying that bill, well, that bundle's gone. Whereas with the app, if you're subscribing, you have it a little bit longer. Even if you don't pay the bill right away, it would still be on there. So that kicks off as, again, the best streaming devices for cord cutters, our best Netflix shows. We have like about 61 picks in this article. And we will also be getting into like the best TVs you can buy, because a lot more TVs now are becoming smart TVs. And the reason why they're doing it is because they can make streaming much more easier. So you wouldn't have to worry about getting, if you don't have, for example, a Roku box or Fire Stick TV or Fire Stick TV like remote that you would have to plug in the back of the TV. Now what they're doing is that you also have Fire TVs or Fire Kindle. So these companies that are making this, and they are making deals with these smart TVs, is they already would have, like, say, the Netflix app, the Disney app, the Hulu app already installed as part of the programming for the TV. So when you buy a smart TV, and maybe it would say like something like 4K HD or just smart TV, you would have those apps up there anyway, the general apps at least. So that's one thing I realized too now with just streaming. It's coming a lot better. So here's a little bit of information in detail when it comes to the recent prices a month that you would have to pay for Netflix and everything else. So right now, they're saying that Netflix is actually number one. I personally disagree with that, but I will tell you why in a little bit. So right now, number one is Netflix. Right now, they're only starting at the price of $9 per month. And it has a lot of different types of streams, very variety, a lot of exclusives, originals, and the platform devices that you can actually use. And listen to this, is Android, iOS, web browsers, Apple TV, Chromecast, Fire TV, NVIDIA Shield, Roku, smart TVs, PS4, Xbox, and set-top boxes, okay? And like I said, right now it's about going out for $9 a month. And this is what they're calling it, and I quote, "The great granddaddy in the market remains the best streaming service. As you probably know, Netflix provides unlimited streaming of TV shows, movies, comedy specials, and original programming, including Love is Blind, Glow, and Black Mirror for 1 month subscription fee. You can even create up to 5 different profiles on a single account to make sure that your favorite content doesn't mess up recommendations for your friends and loved ones. Basically, Netflix is constantly adding and taking away movies, so you want to check out your what's new on Netflix. That's another thing too I do agree with. Netflix does this every month. They take some things off and they put new things on. And what you would watch before it's gone, its latest hit right now, Emma in Paris, comes from the minds behind Sex and the City and is already kind of divisive. No other service has yet given Netflix an honest-to-goodness run for its money in terms of selection, quality, and performance consistency. Recently, it's been easy to see that Netflix is inching away from its original business model of distributing other studios' films and shows in favor of these above originals. Still, though, we can see frequent additions of licensed shows such as Hannibal, Moesha, and Community, making Netflix the home for those looking to catch up on beloved shows they missed the first time around. Our Netflix Hidden Gems guide shows how it's also got a great library of fantastic shows and movies that have somehow gone under the radar for many, many audiences. And this is so true. Like I discussed in my recent podcast that there's a lot of Black TV sitcoms especially too that I feel like go underrated. I mean, at the time probably was popular, but maybe only in urban neighborhoods. But now that it's on Netflix, you can actually see a perspective of why that show was popular in the first place if you actually want to be open-minded and take the chance to it. The second one they have here is HBO. HBO is a little bit more expensive now because of the content. So it's actually $15 a month, and it has a lot of simultaneous streams, about 3 or so. They also have exclusive originals, but they don't do live TV. Their platforms are also Amazon Fire, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, PlayStation 4, Macs and PCs, Samsung Smart TV, Xbox One, and TiVo. So a little bit different from Netflix. The original premium content channel is simplifying its branding after everything got too confusing recently. So HBO Go will be removed from app platforms on July 31st. And the company is ready to move on because most of those customers have already moved on to HBO Max, which was also recently released out in April. So HBO now will be known simply as HBO. That's it. There's no HBO Go anymore. So it's known simply as HBO versus HBO Max. Yeah, that's the easiest way to make that distinction between the two. So I'm only going to be mentioning like the top few for these apps because like I said, I have my own opinion of what I think is at least like the top 3 to 5. For number 3, they have Disney Plus. Of course, they say they're calling it 4 out of 5 stars, the best streaming service for families, okay, whenever you want to watch a familial type of show. And HBO, if you didn't hear me the first time, was actually the best streaming service for prestige TV. So they're kind of going in an order of what they think is the best streaming services, but they're telling you why it's in that order in the first place. And right now, Disney Plus is starting at the price of $7 per month. It doesn't have live TV, unfortunately, but it does have simultaneous streams for $4. And you can actually do this on Amazon Fire TV and Fire tablets, Roku, Chromecast, iOS, iPad OS, Android TV, Apple TV, Xbox, PlayStation, Android-based Sony Smart TVs, Chromebooks, Samsung, and LG devices. So really it's like $6.99 per month, but $7, taxes and everything. But if you wanted to pay it for the whole year, it's basically going up to $69.99 a month. And of course, if you're a huge fan of Disney, you can watch everything that's from Marvel to Star Wars to Disney's own animations, of course, Disney Channel originals, The Simpsons. Like, there's so much to offer. Anything with like National Geographic is on there as well. So like the biggest thing would be Disney's live action that they recently did, and you basically had to have premium in order to watch Mulan on September 4th. It was about $30. I actually paid the money only because I was curious to see the movie for myself like right away, and I didn't want to wait till December. So Hulu is the best streaming service for cord cutters. So again, this will work on Android TV, Apple TV, Chromecast, Echo Show, Fire tablets, Fire TV, iPhones, and iPads, LG TV, only select models though, Nintendo Switch, Mac and PC, PlayStation 3, doesn't have live programming, PlayStation 4, Roku, Samsung TV, only select models again, Vizio SmartCast TVs, Xbox, Xfinity, Flex, and X1. And Hulu is actually $6 per month. It's a little cheaper. So if you want to keep on current, like latest TV shows, but you don't feel like, having cable or anything like that, I would say Hulu is the best for you when it comes to cutting the cord because it has more of the newer TV shows than Netflix. Netflix has a little bit of that, but Netflix kind of takes its time to put up, say, for example, the new season of a certain show that you're trying to keep up with. And they'll probably put it out like 6 months to a year later when you've already seen the show, or at least a good few months. I could be exaggerating. But finally, for number 5 for them is going to be the Amazon Prime Video, which you can only do on Fire TV, Fire tablet, iPhone, iPad, Chromecast, Xbox, PlayStation 4, smart TVs, Blu-ray players, Apple TV, Roku, Xfinity, and X1. And Amazon Prime, pretty expensive. It's about $119 per year. You can pay $12.99 a month. And it has also a lot of original shows. A lot of the different apps also kind of have like a connection or relatability with Amazon Prime. So if you were looking for something with HBO, if you have Prime, sometimes you can watch it that way. Yeah, so like that's their top 5. I'm going to tell you my top 5. In all honesty, I feel like number 1 is going to be Disney Plus, but not as yet, because Disney Plus still hasn't reached that mark where they have released how they want to release a lot of their TV shows that are coming up, because they're still filming a lot of content and the pandemic really slowed things down. So I feel like eventually Disney World will become number 1, because eventually Netflix will probably run out of content. That's just my opinion. As for number 2, I think I have to go with Prime, because Amazon Prime, even though it's a little bit more expensive than some of the other streaming apps, I'm able to, like I said, if I don't have a certain app on my smart TV, which is a LG Webos TV, but I can automatically see if it's on Prime first and then find other ways where I can watch it depending on if I have the app or not. Plus 2, I have everything Amazon Music. Like I said, I watch a lot of my TV shows and film on Amazon, and then I use Amazon, the website, for being a Prime member. So when you're a Prime member, you can have things shipped to you a little bit faster. And it is the same thing with like certain TV shows and that I can watch, because say if I can't watch it at a certain place, I can find it on Prime because I already paid that money. So it is sometimes, depending on what it is, if you don't have to rent it or buy it, it would be for free, at least for like, paying out all that money. For number 3, I definitely have to say Netflix, because if I'm looking to watch an old sitcom, or if I'm looking to watch maybe just an original that looks really good and a lot of people promoted the hell out of it, then yes, number 3 would be Netflix for me. And then following HBO, because I do watch a lot of HBO shows, but not as much as I am on the other apps. And that leaves, I guess, Hulu. Hulu usually is my last resort, because I already have so many TV shows that I currently watch on other streaming apps, and I still can't finish it up to now. Even shows that ended a while ago, like Power, for example, because now Power's already on its spin-off show Ghost. So I still haven't, like, for example, finished seeing that, and I can literally watch it on Stars or just through Amazon Prime. So that's why Hulu is like my last resort. I believe it's on Hulu too, but like the Hulu that I have, for example, which some of you may also have, it doesn't have like that Hulu Live TV, which is what also Hulu does, which is pretty cool. But you do have to pay extra for that. I do want to mention that if you want to do something that's live. So there you have it, folks. Coming up after the break, I'm just going to go into a little bit of what's going on in the TV and media industry lately. But those were basically my list compared to the Tom's Guide list of what is the best TV streaming shows right now, TV streaming networks right now, again on Tom's Guide versus me. So stay tuned after the break. We'll be closing the show soon, and don't go anywhere.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the break, everyone. So if you're now tuning in with us, we just finished discussing the top streaming services of 2020. So go ahead and backtrack on that if you missed it. And we're coming to a close of our show tonight, but I want to thank you again for all of you listeners out there. I really, really appreciate it. This is my dream. I'm actually getting my information now from tvnewscheck.com. And this is basically all the latest updates, especially between like the top companies and like their earning yearly reports of what they've been doing and recent CEOs that have been announced for other companies. So I just want to dive into that and headline that. So first of all, the first update I have here that's going on in TV is actually Netflix's quarterly report. And I'm just going to read this here. It's actually updated from October 20th at 4:41 p.m. from the Associated Press. So here it goes. The drop-off disclosed Tuesday in Netflix's latest earnings report was more dramatic than management had warned it might be. After picking up 2.2 million customers in the July to September period, Netflix finished the quarter with 195.2 million worldwide subscribers. Earlier, the company had forecast an addition of 2.5 million subscribers during the quarter. So Netflix, congratulations, you're doing pretty good. Now I want to jump into Justice Files landmark antitrust case against Google. This also was updated October 20th from the Associated Press at about 1:58 p.m. So the lawsuit marks the government's most significant attempt to protect competition since its groundbreaking case against Microsoft more than 20 years ago. It could be an opening salvo ahead of other major government antitrust actions, giving ongoing investigations of major tech companies, including Apple, Amazon, and Facebook at both the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission. Moving on, recently The Voice, again, this was also updated October 20th, 2020 at 12:10 p.m. from TV Line. And The Voice hits premiere low but best DWTS. So NBC's The Voice kicked off season 19 with 8 million total viewers and a 1.2 demo rating, down 10% and 29% from last fall's premiere, but still leading Monday in both measures. So save for some football overrun on Fox, that's probably the reason why The Voice has ratings down so low. But on ABC, pending possible adjustment due to NFL preemption, Dancing with the Stars, and Emergency Call. They both had ticked up recently. Also, another good news, this is coming from the Deadline, October 20th at 10:06 a.m. ViacomCBS named Tom Ryan the CEO of streaming. So ViacomCBS today named Tom Ryan, currently CEO of Pluto TV, as president and CEO. ViacomCBS Streaming unveiling a new leadership structure for its evolving global free and paid streaming services. Mark DeBevoy will step down from his role as Chief Digital Officer, ViacomCBS, and President and CEO, ViacomCBS Digital, serving in an advisory capacity for the remainder of 2020 to support the transition and ongoing transformation of the digital organization. How awesome is that? Up next, we have PBS ups Sylvia Bug to Chief Programming Exec. This also was updated on October 20th, 2020 from The Wrap. So PBS, for those of you who may not know what that is, but if you ever watched, if you're my generation, PBS Kids, you had TV shows like Maya and Miguel. You had TV shows like Cyberspace. I'm trying to think. Between the Lions. There were like good children TV shows, and they weren't necessarily cartoons, but they were very educational. And of course, we all know PBS is all about education. So PBS has promoted programming executive Sylvia Bug to Chief Programming Executive and General Manager of General Audience Programming. In her new position, Bug will oversee all non-children's content and lead programming strategy across all broadcast and digital platforms. She will also be responsible for the acquisition and development of programming for PBS and its member stations, and I quote, with a particular focus on sharing important stories that reflect the diversity of our country, according to PBS. She's also a woman of color. I just want to point that out. Then we have NBC LX goes bold for next generation audiences. This is from TV News Check from October 20th at 5:29 a.m. So the NBC LX is NBC Universal-owned television stations, the multi-platform lab for storytelling, innovation, iterating across digital, diginets, and OTT. It's turning news conventions on their head in a bid to build loyal younger audiences. Above LX News hosts Ashley Holt and Nick Zesevic at his studio at XAS Dallas. It just had a picture of the both of them basically doing things under NBC so that way they can reach out to younger audiences. Also, I would like to mention that Days of Our Lives is to finally resume to production. So Days of Our Lives is returning to production sooner than originally planned. Filming on the NBC daytime drama was suspended on October 12th for 2 weeks after a production team member tested positive for COVID-19. Taping is now slated to resume October 26th, so they have about a week or a few days. Then I also want to point out that Facebook recently blocked 2.2 million political ads. So Facebook tagged warnings to 150 million misleading election-related posts, and 2.2 million ads were rejected because they failed to complete the political ad authorization process. So Facebook getting down and dirty, because I remember when I had Facebook and it was never like that, like so intense to actually check up on that. And I usually would wonder why don't they monitor certain things more, especially on social media, because people put a lot of crazy things out there. So hey. Also, Remark Communications sells Lubbock stations. This was actually posted from TV News Check, October 19, 2020 at 5:36 p.m. So KJTV and a translator go to Sagamore Hill Broadcasting, YKLCW and KMYLLD, and KXTQ go to Grade Television. So they're just talking about the division between the stations of who's going where. I also thought this recent post was pretty cool because, as I always talk about, a lot of things are changing due to streaming and podcasting. But what if it changes of how we watch our news as well? Is it going to be more VR, more storytelling? Well, here you go. Recently, this was sponsored by the actual weather company, and the title is Weather Storytelling Leaders to Demo the Power of Augmented Reality. This also was posted from TV News Check on October 19th at 5 a.m. So, Univision Network Chief Meteorologist Albert Martinez will join Heller Weather's Tim Heller and the weather company's Mike Convey for a TV News Check webinar focused on elevating local TV weather segments to more effectively compete with digital platforms. Key to their strategy? To have storytelling with augmented reality. I thought that was very interesting because I feel like if that's going to be starting soon with how we tell the weather as meteorologists going into that field, then it'll definitely be groundbreaking for other TV stations as well and how they tell the news and how it's kind of actually scary in a way because already a lot of people don't like watching the news or streaming the news. So to make it more like augmented reality or virtual reality, it would probably be quite intense and it'll be a lot worse of how people view the news now. So we'll see how that goes. I have another announcement I also like to mention. This was actually posted again October 20th, 2020 at 7:51 p.m. And this is pretty recent. So John Polak, he actually oversaw sales of Universal Television Alternative Studios programming to buyers outside of NBC. He is actually leaving the company. Polak, who was EVP, and he was also Creative Affairs, Universal Television Alternative Studios, is leaving a part of two restructures within NBC Universal. Also, recent network ratings of Roundup. So, football rules nationally right now, and the Dodgers in LA. This was also posted from the Associated Press, also on October 20th, 7:45 p.m. So, television's other big competition last week was Thursday's dueling town halls with President Donald Trump on NBC and Democratic opponent Joe Biden on ABC. In an upset since the former reality TV star president has always had drawing power, Biden won 14.2 million viewers to 13.5 million. Fox was the most popular broadcast network last week, averaging 5.2 million viewers. CBS had 4.9 million, ABC had 4.6, NBC had 4.5, Ion Television had 1.2, and Univision had 1.1, and Telemundo had 920,000. Fox News Channel led the cable networks, averaging 4.25 million viewers in primetime. So that's pretty much for all the latest updates in television as far as everything to do with new CEOs, new updates, people leaving companies, situations that are happening between Google and the government, The Voice. Oh, also one more thing. The actress Drew Barrymore. This was actually posted from TV News Check as well on October 20th at 12:24 p.m. Her weekly syndication ratings just rounded up at the end of the week of October 11th. So the article goes, despite being blacked out in numerous markets for French Open tennis, football and coverage of President Trump's post-COVID diagnosis returned to the White House from Walter Reed, Barrymore shot up to 20% from the prior frame to 0.6 live plus same-day national Nielsen rating. So shout out to Drew Barrymore. Her show is still continuing to rise. So again, that's all I have for you folks. That's the latest updates. Oh, I do have one more, and we can go. So AT&T CEO blasts Amazon, Roku, and bottlenecks. So this is actually posted from Fair's video on October 20th at 7:49 a.m. So recently, AT&T is nearly 5 months out from the launch of HBO Max, and the service still doesn't have distribution agreements in place with Amazon or Roku. CEO John Stankey, speaking Monday at the WSJ Tech Live event, said the impasses demonstrate how platform companies, not network providers, have begun to hamstring access to apps and services. And in closing, that is all he had mentioned as a statement. So thank you for listening to the GSMC television podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review that really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.